Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk BD, the official podcast of the BD School, the first educational platform entirely dedicated to business development. Here we interview business development professionals working in the field every day, as well as startup founders, so they can give you all the insights, tips, and best practices to help you become a better business development professional. Let's get ready for the next episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Let's Talk BD, the podcast where we interview business development pros to share their experience. And today I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest. She's called Sabine. Hello, Sabine. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And a quick intro about Sabine. So she's one of our students. Actually, we've been working on her business development skills for the past year. And I actually asked her to be in the podcast because very quickly she actually got a nickname in her company, which I think is going to catch your attention too. So without further ado, I actually let Sabine give you an introduction. So Sabine, if you can tell us a bit more about you, what you do, and then we take it from there.
Sure. So my name is Sabine. I'm a business development representative for a SaaS company. Like you said, I've been, working with you for quite some time now. I've been able to book, a large amount of meetings, throughout from the beginning of when I started until now. So I was quickly considered as, the queen of meetings. Then it would be my pleasure to share with you what I've been doing and what's working for me at the moment.
Awesome. So everyone say hi to the queen of meetings, Sabine. Sabine, let's start from the very beginning because, we started working more or less a year ago where you just actually started working for TechSee. Can you tell us more about your first days as a BDR for TechSee? How was your experience? What were your challenges back then?
Well, I think, at the beginning, it's more about trying to understand how your routing is going to be, and going through understanding the product, the type of issues that the product resolves, who you are going to be talking to, who are going to be your prospects. And also, trying to find a good way to work with your team. I think, teamwork here is very much essential. So being able to understand how you're going to interact with different type of people is also very important. Also, it was the first time that I was working full-time from home. And I think that also was quite challenging in itself. I was trying to, try to find the best routing for myself, and it can take time as well.
Definitely. And can you tell us a little bit more about your job? So what were you doing in your day-to-day job as you were building your routines and really trying to figure out how to set up your business development job?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was just going through a training. So, they were showing me the tools that they are using, trying to understand, the product. I was learning how to demo the product. Seeing, how it really works, trying to meet some customers, see the difference that it's been making in their business. And like I said, also trying to meet with other BDR from different regions because I'm taking care of UK and Europe. So I was, in contact with other BDRs based in North America, for example. And then trying to learn, how the AEs that I'm working with, the account executive that I'm working with, are normally working and, how we can work together and collaborate as well. So the first, I would say first to 3 months, it was more about, understanding others, understanding the product and, also to get to know myself and see how, I would be able to, book meetings basically and be the most efficient as possible as a BDR.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then, of course, you mentioned a few times booking the meetings. Again, your nickname is the Queen of Meetings. Can you maybe share a little bit more about your targets? So how is your job evaluated at TechSee?
Well, they're looking at the amount of targets and then also, you have to create a certain amount of opportunities. So as you booking meetings, the idea here is to bring new businesses as a BDR. So, you have to, that you measure, I'm measured on the amount of meeting, but also the value of each opportunities and then the amount of opportunities that I bring per quarter and per year.
All right, perfect. And well, I think it's interesting also to hear more about your background, because I remember when we first started working together, business development wasn't necessarily your career path that you chose in the past, right? Can you tell us, indeed, can you tell us more about that? Maybe where you were coming from as you started working in BD?
Sure. So I was a biochemist. So I've studied biochemistry, and then I started to work. And then after some time, I realized that I was unfortunately allergic to chemicals. So I have to go for a big career change. And I was really passionate about, finding the right career for myself and something that would, challenge me, but also, make me really happy. And this career ended up to be sales. Business development later. But first, I had to, work my way up and find some experience. So I worked for a dental scan company, and I was using a lot of my scientific knowledge to be able to relate what I already know with sales. And then slowly, I got to business development and got to work with TechSee.
Very interesting. And yeah, I found it particularly funny when we first met that eventually found out you were allergic after you started working. So that must have been a bit of a shocker. You had to change basically everything. And what attracted you to business development? Was there something, I don't know, in terms of skill set or like a way of working that really attracted you to that and made you think, oh, you know what, maybe I can try business development?
Yes, definitely. I think within business developments, something that I was always attracted to was having an interaction with people. And I'll take the example of cold calls. Some people, always ask me, do you really like calling strangers and, having some interaction with people you don't even know? Sometimes they don't really want to hear what you have to say. And, is it not difficult? But I think if you someone who likes having those interactions, and it doesn't really matter the type of product that you are talking about, if you like communicating with others and work on how this particular product is going to help them, then there is always a way to connect with them. And I really like that part, trying to find a connection with them. And on top of that, there's a lot of research that you have to do. You feel like you are somewhat almost like an investigator. You're going through understanding the company, understanding the prospect, going through, what's important to them. And this is something that I really like doing as well. I feel like I'm a little BDR scientific, trying to do some research and understand, what the prospect is looking for. So yeah, that's the two things that I really like and that I was really attracted to from the beginning.
That's a very nice analogy, a little bit sort of an investigator, right? Almost when you do BD. Cool. And well, of course, coming from a different background, how was the encounter with this? Was it shocking, or was there something that you found particularly challenging at the beginning?
Yes, I think what I found the most challenging was to build up a cadence, understanding, like I said, what my daily routine was going to be, understanding when I need to do the calls, when I need to build emails, personalized emails, and I was given a lot of room to try and experiment different things. And again, the you can see the correlation between that and actually working in science, where you try different things and you based on the result you will adjust and readjust. And that as well at the same time as I was being challenged, this is something that I also enjoy doing.
Oh, nice. Sounds really good. And yeah, I personally really love the experimental approach to business development, but I can imagine that for someone with a scientific background, that's even more appealing. All right, cool. So let's talk a bit more about the technical part of your job. So really, when you started working and building sequences and sending emails and so on, what were you doing and what were the results at the very beginning?
So the first thing that I had to do was to go through our playbook. So understanding our ideal customer profile, the personas, the vertical industries, understanding, the value proposition, the kind of pain points, issues that, what we offer resolves. And having interaction with our current customers was very important as well for me to understand that. And then to be able to build the right cadence is I think is very important to take it per account, so per companies. I like myself to go and do some research first in regards to the company. So I like just to do some very simple Google search, see what they are working on at the moment, what's important for the company, and things like that. And then obviously later on, as you understand, the sort of personas, before you build any sort of messages, I think even separately it's nice to go. I'm not sure if everybody's using Sales Navigator, but I'm using Sales Navigator a lot, and LinkedIn as well, even separately. And you would go through their profile and understand the things that they are talking about, the things that is very important to them. And once you have an idea of all of that, then you can start building your messages slowly. And I, personally, because I like to talk a lot, I like to have a vocal interaction, let's say. I usually start with a phone call, and there as well, when you do that, you learn a lot about the industry. You learn a lot about the different type of personas, what's important to them, which is very much what is going to make a difference when you are going to build a message. So from there, a lot of people would say, okay, can you just send me an email? So it feels like, the normal thing is to have emails after, and then after that, I will, have another interaction within LinkedIn or using Sales Navigator, for example. So I would, start with a phone call, then it would be emails, and sometimes it would be LinkedIn, not too far from one of each other, for example. And then, later on, you would do another phone call again, whoever hasn't been able to pick up the phone this time might be able to pick up the phone, for example. I think, persistence is very important. If someone hasn't picked up the phone today, you not going to just give up. It's very important to use, the multi-touch points, because not everybody wants to talk over the phone, but they might reply, if you send an email, for example. So making sure that you use all the tools that you have, and making sure that you don't give up, and you do it in a very organized way, where you are going to have different touch within the months, for example, and making sure that, as you go through your process and you're learning things, that you within the process, that you make some differences as well, that you do whatever needs to be done to adjust it as well, as you're learning more about the industry and what they are looking for.
Oh, perfect. That was a very thorough explanation. I really loved it. I think you gave a lot of insights and ideas to the people listening today. So thank you so much for that. And well, of course, when we started working together, I remember we were struggling to reach the targets of meetings. And I remember also telling you, well, that's normal. You need a bit of time to get used to it and so on. And just really building the perfect formula for you. So I'm more curious, and I think it's more interesting for the people listening as well. How did you manage to become the queen of meetings? So what did you do, and what type of targets did you reach in order to become the queen of meetings?
So I think what is very important is, personalization. So as much as you can, you want to bring, that icebreaker, the personal touch that is going to help you to connect with the prospect. I think that's very important, because even if you have a very good product, they might not be able to, pass the stage where you are able to explain what it is that you want to talk about. So, find a way to connect with the prospect is very important. Within my messages, and even when I also prepare my cold calls, I like to kind of work my way up. So I work kind of all the way around in a way. I would start from the bottom of the message and kind of work my way up. So I would go through, the call to action first, then go through the value proposition, and then, how to explain the product in a very simple way. And then I would find my personal touch, sort of the icebreaker that would help to connect with the professional person. And I found, doing that is actually helping me, because when you start from the bottom, from my own perspective of things, I feel like, when I get to the point where it's time to have that personal touch. I feel like I have built myself up to a connection within what's important for the prospect, or anything that is related to the company as well. So doing that has actually made a difference for me.
Great. That's really good to hear. And talking a bit more about some challenges that you face. I remember one time we were checking one of your prospects that you were trying to reach out for a while, right? And you sent him a few messages, but it was just not replying. So do you have maybe some tips for the people listening here? Like, how do you overcome this sort of ghosting, let's say, from your prospects? What do you do to get their attention? Is there something specific that helped you in the past months?
Yeah, this is where, like I said, the multi-touch is very important, because if you've been sending emails and you haven't had any responses, but you can see that they've been looking at the email and there's no response, you kind of wonder why, this is happening, especially if you had interaction with them before and then all of a sudden they stop replying, which happens quite often. This is why it's very important, if you do have, like a direct phone number, like the mobile phone, for example, you can try to make a phone call, and sometimes it does work. But something else that you can do as well is, for example, interact with their post on LinkedIn, and say, something that's quite relevant to them. Look at what the post is, and you can also give your opinion and say, oh, that's great, great initiative. You've been doing this. I think it's great. And I personally do this as well. And I'm looking forward to speak to you very soon about that, because I'm very curious, for example. And you start to, build an interest for them. But something else that I would like to say as well is that it's very important to, in any sort of touches that you have, in any sort of way that you try to interact with the prospect, you want to make it count. So you want to really carry on doing your research and making sure that you always give something that's relevant to them, rather than, work on quantity. You want to work on qualities, and making sure that every single time that you try to have those interactions, even when you leave a message, for example, you want to make sure that you are saying something that is relevant to them. So carry on doing your research and making adjustments throughout your journey of trying to get responses from your prospect is very important.
That's I totally agree with you. I think too many times, and too many companies really focus too much on the quantity rather than the quality. But personally, because I tried that too, I experimented with both, and personally, I found out that quantity it really doesn't translate necessarily in outcome in revenue, for example,
Exactly.
or actual meetings. So that's, I think I really agree with you. It's really all about being relevant and putting the customers first. And, you mentioned something at the beginning of our chat, which was that at the beginning, you really had to get to know yourself better in relation to BD. How did you grow more personally than professionally over this first year working in BD for TechSee?
I think here, what really helped me to build myself up was my team. Having people around me, like you, for example, who, was, giving me advice throughout my journey, was really what helps me. I would say, when you start as a BDR, don't be afraid to pull the teamwork cards. A lot of time I see, other BDRs, trying to put a lot of pressure on themselves on, getting the result that is expecting for them. And that's really important. And I understand that. But I think the more you shadow people, the more you see how they, present themselves or how they explain the product, the more you also yourself, don't be afraid of challenging yourself, making sure that you can, explain the product to your colleagues, go through, different ways of doing cold calls, show your messages, share what you are doing and what's working, what's not working, and see the sort of advice that they can give you so you can also adjust. So you have your own sort of research and doing your own scientific experiments, like I like to call it. But you also have a lot of people around you that you can use. And it's for you as a BDR to go and look for those resources as well. So I think doing that is very important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one more question. It's I always like to ask this, especially to people that just started working in BD, or, they're at the beginning of a BD career. What is the thing that you like the most about business development, and the thing that you like the least about it?
So what I like the most, I would put two things on the same level. I have to put those two things. So I like the interaction with prospects, which is something that, communication is, to me, is something that's so important in my life. That having this as a job, being able to get paid just for talking, it's like, probably the most enjoyable thing that I could ever have in my life. But
Nice.
also, but also something that I really enjoy is teamwork. Being able to go and look for resources from other people, and having people who are very much open. I mean, I'm very lucky working for a company where I can go and literally speak to anyone, even our CEO. I can just speak to anyone, and they would always listen to me, giving me feedback, and we can work together on different things. That it's great to be able to have that. I feel like, on top of doing business development research and booking meetings, you feel like you count within the team when you have those teamwork interaction and you bring results as a team as well. So that's the two things that I think that are the best within my job. Something
Awesome.
that I can find sometimes challenging is obviously when you're not getting the results, and you've been trying different things, and it can be frustrating, and getting rejections, objections, or just people being silent can sometimes be difficult to deal with. But I really try not to take it personally, and don't give up and just keep on trying. But sometimes it can take a bit longer than in other cases, and this can be sometimes frustrating. But it is also part of the process, isn't it?
It really is. It really is part of the process. And that's also something that, I think I mentioned it to you as well at the beginning, but I say to everybody that comes to the BD school, like, at the end of the day, business development is quite a long-term game, right? So it's, you just need to be at peace with it and just like accept it, go with it. And then eventually results come, like, really from the consistency of the actions. And this, I experienced exactly the same with the BD school. Like, when we started, of course, there was a lot of enthusiasm and so on, but then it took us a bit of time to really figure out the best ways of doing things, and there were a lot of failures in between. So there's just indeed part of the process. And maybe one of the last questions, and this is more in terms of tools. So do you have like some tools that you use in your day-to-day job, and which one would you recommend to the business developers listening?
So the one that I used, obviously Outreach. I think a lot of people are using Outreach. It's a great way, to build reminders, build your cadences. You get to build your automated messages as well. Within Outreach, you can also create your own more personalized sort of messages per personas as well. And I also use a lot, like I said before, Sales Navigator. I think it's a great way to research for the personas that you are looking for, and finding, targets within your sort of ideal customer profile. There's this new tool that obviously you introduced to me, actually, which is called the ChatGPT. And it's a great way to get some ideas of finding sometimes a title, or if you want to create something that's a bit more personalized. But ChatGPT will give you more of an idea of things that you can add in a more general way, based on other people's research as well. So that's always good to have. What I would say is not to just copy paste it. Obviously you can take some ideas from it, but make sure that it belongs to you as well, and you understand it, and is something that is very much relevant to you. And then I'm not sure if this is something that is relevant to people who are listening to us, but using something like Google Meet is very important as well, because it will give you the opportunity to create your own links. So, for example, if you want to book some meetings, you can just send the link and your prospect can also go onto your calendar and just book a meeting whenever it suits them. It saves them to kind of reply and try to find a slot. And, it is just very much something that they can do in a more quicker way as well. So I like to have that tool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabine. And yeah, indeed, ChatGPT is like, I remind to the people listening here that maybe are not connected with me on LinkedIn. A couple of weeks ago, I asked ChatGPT to run the BD School for a week. And this podcast was actually planned thanks to ChatGPT. So it gave us some ideas for questions that we could ask Sabine so that we could be relevant for you today. But just as Sabine mentioned, indeed, you have to kind of review it a little bit. It's not just ready to use. All right, Sabine, maybe one last thing. What would be your best piece of advice for people starting their career in business development or maybe considering to enter in BD, maybe from a scientific background or a different background than maybe business?
Yeah, actually, I've met a lot of BDRs and SDRs, since the past year. And a lot of them, weren't necessarily, focusing on working in business development. I don't think that, you would, as a kid, you would dream at night that you want to become a BDR. Oh my God, I want to become a BDR. No. But, you kind of get to that. And something that is very, very interesting is that they all have the ability to communicate. And even more than that, they just like to communicate. I think so that's, if you have that in you and you really want to make a difference in terms of, somebody's business or finding a way to help them, and you like to communicate, I think, try to be a BDR or work in business development, and it could be something that could change your life. And an advice that I would like to give is, never give up. If you don't get the results, if you're already a BDR and you're struggling in finding the result that you are expecting, it takes time, and, you have to learn. It depends on the industry. It depends on, obviously, what it is that you're selling. But just overall, don't give up, try and be consistent. Keep doing your research. And even though you don't see the result today, you will see the result at some point. If you're consistent and you keep doing it, you would definitely get the results. So yeah, that would be my main advice. Just be persistent, be consistent, and the result will come in itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabine. I think it's a great reminder, and indeed we should always keep in mind that we can't just give up too easily. Otherwise, we lost already at the start. So thank you so much, Sabine. Everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with the queen of meetings. So I'm not sure, Sabine, if it's okay if people reach out to you on LinkedIn, maybe if they want to have extra tips. Great. Then if that's the case, perfect. We will put then your LinkedIn profile here in the description. So thank you so much, Sabine. It was great to chat with you. And everyone.
No problem. My pleasure.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening. We'll be here again in a couple of weeks with a new episode of Let's Talk BD. But in the meantime, do check the BD School on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you like to hang out. We're going to be there giving you some tips to improve your business development career. All right, everyone, thank you so much and see you next time.
Bye, everyone.